All right, Chris, you got to talk to Craig. It's on you.
Listen, I thought he would be fine bringing Ed home and coming back, but he keeps running off and doing whatever he wants, and we keep having all these problems. But he's here now, at least.
You sent him to take Ed Greenwood home. What did you expect? Like, you can't expect too much out of Craig. Anyway, let's get on with this. We're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay. I'm joined with my co-hosts Christopher, Christian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
No.
Okay. Christian, where can they find us on social medias?
You can find the Grumpy Dungeon Masters podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And wherever else you might get your podcast, you can also find some number of the Grumpy Dungeon Masters streaming on Twitch TV on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Currently playing through the game Soul Mask.
Yep. So this week we have another fantastic guest. We finally made it happen. We are joined with Professor Dungeon Master. Say hello there.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's great to be anywhere.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, and it's definitely it's great that you're here, and I really want to talk about your backer kit. So, but I'll let these guys start with their questions and conversations, and maybe you can just start by telling us, for the audience that doesn't know anything about you, what would you like to tell them?
Well, I am Professor Dungeon Master, and I've had a show on YouTube called Dungeon Craft for about 8 years, in which I give Dungeon Master advice and do game reviews and talk about the latest gaming news, all that stuff. And I now have a game called Deathbringer on BackerKit, and it is my version of the world's most popular role-playing game. And yeah, it's going pretty well.
So, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna let them ask first because I know they have more questions than I do. But I definitely want to talk more about the YouTube side of things. So,
we'll get to that too.
Yeah, I do. So this is, I guess, the second version of Deathbringer, because I remember I purchased, and I brought this up again, the Deathbringer Trifold that you put out. I don't know how long ago. Because that's where I stole some of the rules I use for house rules for my Shadow Dart game currently.
Excellent. Yeah, that was about 2 or 3 years ago. The Die Fold, we call it.
Yeah.
It was a collaboration between myself and Runehammer. And it was our micro game, and it did very well. It's one of the best sellers of all time on DriveThruRPG.
Wow.
And I think it's still in the top 40. It's like Dark Side of the Moon. You know how like that album was on the charts for like 15 years? It's still up there. It's still doing well. And now we've expanded it into a backer kit game.
Yeah.
And the backer kit game so far has done incredibly well.
Yeah, I have the page up right now, and then the number of Deathbringers has ticked up 5 in the time that we were dealing with the technical issues. So
awesome.
So one of the questions that we got about Deathbringer was why? Why make an RPG when there's already so many that exist? That, you know, there's a lot of OSR style games that have, you know, not a whole lot of rules, or just aren't, you know, encumbered like D&D or Pathfinder or anything. So why make this game?
That's a good question. And I think that in terms of role-playing games, we have to broaden our horizons, because role-playing game is a relatively new hobby. It's a relatively new art, right? No one asks, like, why are the Killers making an album when the Rolling Stones and the Beatles made rock albums, right? Like, everything's been done.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not saying Deathbringer does anything it is my version of the world's most popular role-playing games. It's not going to win any awards for the most innovative mechanics. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel to do something artful like many of the ENnie nominated games this year, because I'm hosting the ENnie Awards. Yeah, there's some really unusual mechanics, but I wanted to write the game that I play on the table because so many of my patrons asked me for it, and they asked me for it for a long time. And so I wanted to make a game that was kind of like Hamburger Helper. You can use it to spice up what you're already making, your macaroni and cheese or whatnot. Or it could be its own game, its own standalone game. So I think the world is a better place with more games. And I see another analogy I would make is role-playing games, to me, especially the world's most popular role-playing game, it's like a language. When we see strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, armor class, hit points, you know what you're looking at. You could sit down at a table. You could play Pathfinder. You could play Dungeon Crawl Classics. You could play Shadow Dark, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, or Old School Essentials. The list goes on and on. It's different versions of that game are just different dialects of the same language. And many people, they're happy with the language they speak. So I'm not trying to invent a new one. I'm trying to invent my dialect.
Yeah, that is a great answer. Are you happy with it, Chris?
Well, yeah. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a more eloquent answer. I mean, but I still sometimes go as like, well, why not just stick with D&D and call it a day? Because it is, like you said, the most popular role-playing system ever, and everyone kind of knows it and understands it. Why modify it more? And that's a question that I think we've been bouncing off each other, and well, I've been bouncing off with them for the past year or so.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Shadow Dark. I think I'm definitely going to like Deathbringer. There's a couple other systems that I've played, like from Fantasy Flight, that I've enjoyed. But I don't know. It just sometimes for me, it's like unless I see something that is absolutely revolutionary, I kind of just go, well, why? If it's not completely new.
Well, it is not new, but it does have a couple of cool techniques and mechanics that I think it'll make it worth backing. And would you like me to talk about that?
Absolutely.
To that?
Yeah, go for it.
We'd love for you to talk about that.
So there's two key ones, which is first we have the death dice. So rather than having a million feats and skills, you have a pool of D6s, and you can use those D6s to add to any D20 roll, increase your damage by D6, or block D6 incoming damage. And you can use multiple death dice at once. And you use them throughout the session, and they respawn at the beginning of the next session. You can also give death dice to other people, and the game master can hand death dice, additional ones out, if they think you do something cool. It would take the place of inspiration too. So if you look at Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition or Pathfinder, if you were to sort all the feats into different categories, they would fall into one of two: things that make you harder to hit, and things that make it situations that make it easier for you to hit things. The Deathbringer dice do that. So, and feats and class features, things like my barbarian can rage and he can hit things and do extra damage. Well, now you can all rage with the Deathbringer dice. My thief can sneak attack. Now, if you want, you can sneak attack too. Now, thieves and barbarians may have still extra. We don't have barbarians, but we do have thieves. They still get bonuses to sneak attack. But if you really had to do a sneak attack, but really, if the narrative hinged upon you taking out that guard, you can use your Deathbringer dice to do that. And that means that you never have to stop the narrative aspect of the game to ever look up a rule. Because when you roll the dice, the only time you look up rules is when, oh, I rolled a 14. That's kind of the squishy gray area of a D20 game, right? You know, if you rolled a 16, you succeeded. You know, if you rolled a 5, you didn't. The squishy gray area is like 10 to 14. That's when people start looking up at their character sheets. Now you don't have to worry about that, because if you didn't make it, you just use the death dice, and it allows you to stay in the narrative without looking up rules. As a matter of fact, the rules are going to, and I think this Deathbringer is the first game to do this ever. You're not allowed to look up the rules. Once the game is in progress, you're not allowed to look up the rules. The game master's decision now trumps every written rule.
You know
You're
what?
not
I
allowed
think
to
I was going to say right there, you sold me.
That's a great rule.
That's a good rule.
You could look it up after the game, right? But if it turns out like you didn't know what Magic Missile did, and the game master says, well, you're rolling a D4, you look it up later, it's D6. It's D4 for that session. It's like your phone doesn't get bars, or your computer doesn't get enough bars. You don't know why. You know, that's the magical ether. That's how we explain it in Deathbringer. And the second mechanic that I think is cool, that no other role-playing game has done, is when your character dies, instead of making a death save, you pop up the next round with a single hit point. And you get access to a list of premium talents, which talents are like feats. But for Shadowdark has these talents. You get these premium talents, like you get to upgrade your damage die when you work, using your favorite weapon. And the only way you can get access to those feats is if you drop to 0 hit points and you earn a scar. So this encourages the players, instead of trying to be, chicken and try to game the system by like, well, how my magic missile range is 60 feet, but his spell is 59 feet. So if I stay 1 foot back and put my toe forward, or two, how players do that, and they're always trying to game it. Now,
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's always
yeah.
there's always a wizard just at the edge of a counter spell.
yeah, they're just at the end of the counter spell. Yeah, now that's not going to happen as much, because you want your wizard to get hit with a counter spell so you could get the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then that happens 2 times. You're going to get 2 scars, which you can choose how your character is mangled. And it doesn't affect the character's stats, which is noticeable. And then the character, the 3rd time, they're going to die. But they get to drag their entrails and do one last move, on which they score an automatic critical. If that's at rescuing the princess, all right, if it's dragging the Balrog over the bridge, if it's the dragon eats you, all right, but you cut your way out of its stomach, all right, and emerge out the other side, and you've been destroyed by his stomach acid, but the dragon is dead. Yeah, that's how you're going to go out. So you're going to go out like a boss. And I think that's more fun than just waiting around for some cleric to save you. I don't want to play a game like that. I don't want to play a game where I get to roll not to die, and I just wait for my friends to, get a
Keep playing
cleric
the game.
spell to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you get to kind of you just get back in the action and keep playing, instead of everyone else plays while you kind of hang out and watch.
That's
Yeah,
actually
we
gonna be
have-
one of the. That was actually going to be one of my stories for this week. If we didn't have a guest on the normal podcast, was I had a player that I took him down, and he spent the entire night just dead and dying, and just being brought up and then going right back down the entire night. And I felt so bad for him. And I was trying to figure out something to get him into the combat to do something, but nothing worked in our game. So it was crazy. But I think that's really good. I think that's a good way of keeping things running and keeping things narrative.
In the spirit of not gaming the system, since you have multiple Deathbringer dice, would you do do players have to declare how many they're using at once, or can they sort of like nickel and dime it to be like, I roll one, do I succeed yet? Okay, I'll roll another one.
They get to nickel and dime it. They get to see their roll. That's a good question. You get to see the roll on the D20, and then you can roll them one at a time.
Okay.
And if the game master says, "Oh, let's say you roll a 14 and you roll a 2," and the game master says, "No, it's not quite there," you could use another one and hit. So it really makes it's fudging, but it gives the player the power to fudge the game the way they want. So you're never going to have one of those nights. You have those nights when you can't roll over a 6. Everyone has them.
Dan has them. The other Dan has them all the time.
Very familiar.
Yeah. Well, now Dan can go in a rage, not a barbarian rage. I mean a Dan rage.
That's
and
right.
He can say, "F this! I'm going to use all my Deathbringer dice at once."
And
now I
roll 3 natural ones.
And roll. And maybe,
yeah,
but probably roll a 15 or whatever, and it mitigates so many boring parts of the game, and you don't have to keep track of a bunch of things on a character sheet. It just works. So, but the death saves mechanic is another one, and there are more mechanics like that will make your games more exciting. And if people want to play it as its own game, it stands alone. But if people want to import rules into Shadowdark or their 5e game or their Pathfinder game, let it rip.
So, Christian, I have to ask you that your way you handle the luck dice. Did you steal that from?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely stole that from the die fold. The D6 and being able to use it to add to damage or reduce damage. I 100% stole that because I like the mechanics so much. In fact, I will probably just entirely replace Shadowdark's luck token with Deathbringer dice because I think I like the rolling dice and getting to kind of choose your thing better than just a reroll.
Yeah, I'm looking at the trifold right now, Christian, and I see you also stole the cannot be used to alter nat 1.
Yes, I did.
Son of a bitch.
Shamelessly, I did. Just be looking at it, steal the miscast table.
We've been playing your game for a while, unknown to us, Professor DM. So there's been a number of times I've cast spells and I don't have that spell anymore because I rolled in that one, and I can't re-roll because luck tokens don't work like this in this game. Shit.
Well, you're gonna love the miscast, the expanded miscast rules, because we really went all out to make them way worse than Shadowdark.
Excellent.
So I am a huge fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I absolutely love miscasting in that game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Deathbringer has.
Well, I love the trifold, the difold here. I'm looking at the miscast table is pretty brutal. Like including one where you just explode.
Yes.
So, Professor, what is your favorite miscast? If you can remember off the top of your head.
Every fetus within a 1 mile radius shrivels in the womb.
Holy shit!
Oh man,
that's dark.
So people hate wizards.
So on a very similar dark note, one of my players in Dungeon Crawl Classics just got a new spell, and they have the Mercurial Magic table. So whenever you get a new spell, there's going to be something weird attached to that spell. And he rolled on the table, and every time he casts that spell, it kills thousands of people in another dimension. And every night he has dreams of a king begging him to stop casting it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Because magic has consequences.
So speaking of how terrible that your player is being to that, and that king is begging him to stop, I hear there's corruption points in your game, Professor Dungeon Master.
There are. I replaced alignment with corruption. So anytime you do something that the game master deems to be corrupt, you gain a corruption point. When you gain 10, you become a monster controlled by the DM. You lose all humanity.
Right.
And that's up to the game master, like what they, is killing a prisoner. Is that worth a corruption point? If you kill 2, is that worth 2? That's up to the game master. Because I've sat through so many games where the paladin or the cleric, who are supposed to be virtuous and lawful good, they turn a blind eye as the rest of the party commits war crimes. and I'm tired of that. I am tired of that.
Yep.
No, I hear that.
We're all familiar with that.
Yep.
I hear you're not a big fan of clerics in general because of the kind of gameplay they promote.
That is accurate. I think clerics are, it's very much like in Monopoly, right? I love the game Monopoly. I recognize many people, including some grumpy DMs, probably hate it.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask people, why do you hate it? The answer is almost always, it lasts forever. And then I ask, what happens when you land on free parking? Because if the answer is you get all the money that, that people lost, people play with this house rule that you get all the money that everybody lost. And when you land on free parking, you get it. That's a famous grandma rule. And people think it's a real rule. That's not a real rule. If you play that way, the game will never end, because the purpose of the game is you're going to go bankrupting people. But the game will never end if you just replenish the money. Hit points work the same way. If you constantly get hit points back, then the game has no tension. You lose the hit points, gain it back. Lose the hit points, gain it back. It's a lot like pushing beans across a table. You lose 36 beans. I get 24 back. Now I get 8 beans back. Well, you lost 52 beans. Well, now I gain 53 back. And it's just like, it never ends. It never ends. You end up, I understand why it's done, because you want the cleric to do something. And one of the people talk about common game master complaint is how to balance encounters, or the encounters. This encounter is not balanced, or it's too much balanced this way or that way. My feeling is the problem with the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is it's too balanced. It's so balanced that nothing happens. You need to have, I like a game that's swingy. It's like why I like side-based initiative, and you re-roll it every round. Because then someone, all of a sudden, they can go twice in a row. 2 sides, the same side goes twice in a row and turn the tide of battle. I love in Deathbringer, you get a natural 20, you do an extra D12 bonus damage, and your weapon die explodes on the top number. So if you roll an 8, you roll on an 8-sided die, you roll an 8 again. So I've seen people cause 40-something points of damage. That's awesome, because that means the fight will end. I'd rather have 3 rounds or 4 rounds filled with action-packed, unpredictable combat than just you're keeping. It's like doing your taxes, where it's like, oh, we lost it here, but we gain it here, and it just and the combats go, for a long time. I think the most value, what the most balanced version of Dungeons & Dragons is? The 4th edition. That's actually the most balanced. I dropped my kids off at Gen Con to do a 4th edition demo. They're about 7, 8, and maybe 10 or 11 years old. My son and my daughter. Picked them up 2 hours later. And I said, son, what happened? And he said, we fought 12 goblins for 2.5 hours. It was so balanced that it just took forever. And I'd prefer a game that's just swingier. That was a long answer, but that's why I don't like clerics.
It's accurate.
I giggled because I feel exactly the same way. Christian and I at a con, whenever 4th edition first came out, played 4 different games of 4th edition because we really wanted to try it out, see if we wanted to move on from 3rd edition that we were playing at the time. And by the time we got to the 4th game, which was like a 16th level game or something like that, we fought a dragon for the entire session. It was not epic because everyone used all their abilities in the first 15 minutes, and then you have like your at will abilities in 4th edition that everyone just was plinking at each other with, and then the cleric was healing a little bit, and then everyone's just doing minimal damage to each other. And I don't even think we actually defeated the dragon. I think the session ended before that ever happened, and it was the most boring shit I've ever played. And Chris will give me shit for saying it, but I think 4th edition is probably the worst edition of D&D. But here we are. But yeah, I'm definitely with you on I prefer a swingy game, but I also grew up in the 90s, and my first game was not D&D, it was Rollmaster, and you could very easily get stabbed by a commoner in the eye and roll a 66 on the E-puncture crit and immediately fucking die, no matter how many hit points you had. So swingy I was very familiar with by the time I started playing D&D, and things started getting balanced.
Yeah, I played a lot of
I remember Rollmaster.
Yeah. I fell in love with the crit charts, just reading the crit charts. Like, oh man, I can turn into a fine pink mist, or I can get my head caved in. Doesn't matter how many hit points I have.
Yeah, I played a lot of Boot Hill back in the day, and that, I mean, it's just a random chance that you're just going to die on every single bullet. And I went through a lot of characters
like real life.
in the game. Yeah, exactly. People start shooting guns and people start dying. It's not good.
Yeah. Could you walk us through the 8 classes you created for the backer kit version of Deathbringer? Because I have your Difold, and you had I think only 6 in there. And I think you've kind of you've obviously reworked a couple of them, right?
Yeah, we got a traditional fighter and a traditional thief, although names are subject to change and we may still tweak them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got the Deathbringer, who they are a cult of alchemically enhanced super soldiers, right? And their thing is they can spend a Deathbringer die to make another attack, and they have a class feature, Cleave. When they drop an opponent, they can immediately attack another nearby opponent. Then there is the Bounty Hunter. They get bonuses to knock people out, shoot them. They're essentially our version of the Ranger, but they don't cast spells.
Right.
There is there is no healer. We split the cleric up into 2 classes. You got the Plague Doctor, who can cure plagues and cure poison. And they also can brew D4 potions a day. And these things can be things like healing potions or grenades, acid, gas, hallucinogenic drugs. They're like part healer and part mad scientist. The other cleric type, actually, there's probably 3 classes we broke the cleric up to. There's the battle nun, who is most like the paladin. She smites things and can cast protection from evil type spells. We got the witch hunter, who gets bonuses to attack spellcasters and bonuses to resist spells. We got the scribe, which is our version of the wizard, which they don't get spells when they go up level. They have to find the spells. They have to search them with scrolls. They have to meet NPCs who will give them spells, maybe in exchange for going on a quest. And when they cast a spell, to learn a cast spell, they have to put the spell's formula, they have to tattoo it on their skin. So the more powerful they get, the more tattoos they get. But the more targeted they become by the witch hunters, and the general population, because magic is very dangerous and they hate them. And I'm trying to think. I think that's all of them. I'm probably missing one, but
yeah, just the thief and the fighter. Which
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the fighter might get changed to, I might call him a cell sword or something. And they're going to be a little bit more versatile than the Deathbringer, whereas the versatile. The Deathbringer is very much a power kind of character.
Yep.
So I feel like you've definitely got a firm grip on combat and how you want combat to play out in your game, and it's meaningfully deadly and everything like that. And I know that you're using Shadow Dark as sort of the chassis for your backer kit version of Deathbringer, but are you? I know you're kind of not. You're not doing any. Much like Shadow Dark, you're not doing any skills or feats or anything like that. You've got talents and everything, but as Shadow Dark obviously is about solving problems without necessarily getting into a fight and dungeon delving and things like that. In your game is obviously you're not trying to get into a combat every single time you go somewhere, even though you have your awesome dungeon terrain, you have all of the cool abilities that you gain from dying, a limited number of times obviously, but is it still, are you trying to avoid combat more or less like you would in Shadow Dark some of the times, as opposed to just trying to get in? Obviously, Deathbringer's trying to get in combat all the time, but are you doing traditional RPG things and solving puzzles and things like that, or is the intent really to emphasize the combat? I guess is what I'm getting at.
That's a good question. I think Shadow Dark and most OSR games, because it's very much in the OSR mode, the reason they're deadly is because characters have very few hit points. In Deathbringer, the Deathbringer dice are essentially, they could be more hit points for you. But the game is swingier and much spongier, right? With the natural 20 doing another d12 damage and the exploding dice, anything could happen. Really, I think that once the players figure out how to use the Deathbringer dice, the best way to use them is actually to kill something before it ever strikes you. And so I want a game where when you go into combat, it is going to be, you want to keep it as brief as possible. You want to go into combat, but you want to take them down as quickly as you possibly and brutally as you possibly can. Because it is swingier. And so I think that you can be a little more heroic because you do have the Deathbringer dice. A first level Deathbringer character is more powerful than a first level Shadow Dark character. And that's okay. But this is where it gets different. Right? As you level up in Deathbringer, you roll for hit points with disadvantage and you don't add your constitution. So you're going to be 7th level with 17 hit points with all these exploding dice. So the thing about Deathbringer is, as your character gets more powerful, they can be 14th level, but they could still be taken out with one really lucky shot from a rusty knife wielded by a sneaky goblin. So as a result, you can actually go to higher levels in Shadow Dark, but your character will never become an invincible tank because that's boring.
Right.
So it's
fully agree.
The way the bell curve is going to work is you're more powerful at the beginning, but more vulnerable toward the end when you're at the 20th level.
Okay.
I would assume that character creation is quite fast as well, because people are going to end up dying in the middle of a game, and you're going to have to make characters.
It is suggested that you make up more than one character when you make up your character. So there's just a backup character, and you just send them in, and the backup character gains experience at one level lower than your character.
Okay.
And so that way, that's right up front. Character creation is not that long, but I definitely want it to be. I want it to be interesting. So you roll a background, working on the background of your character, and it give every character sort of like a tragic sort of backstory. Because let's face it, if you had a happy life, why would you be crawling down a hole, possibly getting devoured by monsters, trying to get like three gold pieces?
Right.
You come from desperate circumstances if that's your life.
Yeah, not the profession of the well-adjusted.
No,
not at all.
about you guys, but I'd totally be a Monster Hunter right now if I could.
The point stands.
Yeah, point stands.
Yep. It's not well
Aw.
adjusted. So I have another question. I saw that in the backer kit, you guys have an album that accompanies the higher tiers. What band's doing the soundtrack?
We're gonna have a guy that does Hollywood soundtracks do the soundtrack,
Okay,
and we got
awesome.
a Grammy-winning producer working on it. And I hope, I don't know, but I'd like to contribute a theme, a little motif, because I play keyboards a little bit, and I have a little motif in mind. So with them, that's when I get back from Gen Con, that's what we're going to be doing. And
Cool.
I
Pulling a
think
little
that,
John Carpenter action.
Hell yeah.
yeah, I used to do that. I had a synthesizer, and I would have like it playing in the background. I'd loop it during my games and do a little John Carpenter. I was like that kind of game master. I
Awesome.
was the kid with his own synthesizer, so it was. But I'm getting professionals to do this. I'm not that good, and but I think Dolmenwood, which won a couple Ennies last year, up from more Ennies this year. They have a soundtrack album, and they sort of just raised the bar. They raised the bar. Now everything's going to have a soundtrack album, a vinyl soundtrack album. That's one of the great things about the time we live in is this game escalation where
Try
it's
not to
like,
each
well,
other.
we're all trying to.
Yeah, you're not
make
wrong. Like the old school essentials and Dolmenwood have kind of raised the bar of how to lay out your books and your modules and just make things easier to read and bring to the table and look up. They really do raise the bar. So they definitely have well-deserved Ennies. Can confirm.
Yeah, that's the best thing about the Ennies is that it's the games are so great. The games that are being produced today are so, you get so much value for them. The production values are so high. They're so creative. I do a lot of game reviews, and some people have asked, well, why don't you ever give a negative review? I don't read very many bad games. There were bad games in the 80s, but not now. Not now. To get a publisher to publish your game, it's got to be pretty good. And I see indie, there are great indie games, small press games, and stuff on Drive Through RPG that is just incredibly creative. You just look at something like A 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, and it may not it's a journaling game if you're not familiar with it. May not be everyone's cup of tea, but that book is gorgeous. And it is so creative that it's just incredible. What a great time to be a fan of games.
Yeah, the whole Kickstarter backer kit model has allowed a lot of people who never would have been able to put their own stuff out to actually, create things and get it out to the public.
Yeah.
Like, we do live in a wonderful time for games.
Yeah, my bank account doesn't like it, but I certainly enjoy it. Usually there's like I'll end up backing. Oh, they're having a zine month. I'm gonna have to back 15 of these, and then the next one's like I can't back anything. It's like anyway, Deathbringer's out this month. It's like shit. Okay.
Yeah, because I backed Deathbringer, and like the next day I saw something else that was another $150. I'm like, crap. I can't back everything here.
Well,
luckily all of the they're all for like 30 days, so
yeah,
maybe get at the end of it. And a lot of them actually are allowing like you to do after it ends
late pledges,
late pledges, which is great.
Which is probably what I'll end up doing.
Well, I think it's great. Well, thank you for backing Deathbringer, and
oh yeah.
All I could say is because people have said that I've overbacked things, and then I recommend things, and then they back those things. All I can say is my other hobby, aside from role-playing games, is horology. I collect watches.
Okay.
And in comparison, role-playing games, backing them on
Cheap.
Backer Kit and Kickstarter is relatively cheap.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that is true.
Do you by chance watch a YouTube channel called Wrist Watch Revival?
No, I don't. Is that the one where they rebuild the wristwatches?
Yeah, it's one guy. He just does a little voiceover. He takes apart the watch, cleans it, and puts it all back together again.
I have seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, I leave that channel up when I'm writing and doing stuff. It's just like my background noise. Just him going through watches, telling the history of the watch, and this gem is cracked. It's microscopic, so I have to replace it. So it was just. I think that's awesome. I can never wear a wristwatch, but I do like watching him break them down.
You can't wear a wristwatch. Why?
Yeah, big boy.
I'm a very large person, and I'm very fidgety. So, like when I wear a wristwatch, I just fidget with it too much, and I tend to find the less that I have that's extra on me, the less I fidget.
See, what I do is, because I fidget too, I buy dive watches because they got a bezel, which is a multi-$1,000 fidget spinner. I love it. I just twist the bezel all day.
Oh
I
man.
won't buy a watch without a bezel. And I just turn it and annoy my wife.
Yeah.
She's on the room still, is she? Oh.
She is. She's, so they make a watch for you, my brother. Dive watches.
I remember this was I usually work from home, and I got a different job, and I was brought into the office, and they knew I had normally worked from home, and so I'm there, and I was taking off my wedding ring and spinning it on the desk, and then like stopping it and spinning it and stopping it and spinning it, and they're like, "All right, you can work from home." It was just all right. So I'm sure I would annoy my wife if I had that little bezel as well. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your YouTube journey.
Awesome.
So when you started that off, like, did your first couple videos and you put it out there? I'm assuming you just did it for a hobby, much like how we're doing this for a hobby. But over 8 years, everyone loved your content so much, and you're doing that. What did you do like behind the scenes to get that channel out there to the people?
That's a great question that very few people have asked. So I appreciate it. It was like hell because I'm not good with technology. I knew nothing about doing a video, uploading a video, nothing about sound, editing, film, nothing. So I had to learn from scratch with a phone. Then the phone got jammed up because of the data at the time. There was no cloud. So the phone didn't work. So I had to get I put all the footage on my computer, and then the computer slowed down, and then I had to get an external hard drive, and then another, dedicated computer, and it just kept escalating until I was $6,000 in the hole.
Ooh.
And then I was like, well, now I have to succeed because I have to get my $6,000 back. and so I just worked at it and worked. I was like, I got to monetize these videos. And I really didn't know how to do anything. And, sometimes when people say, nobody helped me, I had to do it all myself. No, somebody helped you.
Yeah,
In my
those
case,
people
it
are always
really was
lying.
true. My case was really true. I would ask my kids, they wouldn't help me. My wife didn't do anything about it. No one in the neighborhood knew about it. I even asked, I'm a high school teacher. I asked my students, I'm like, okay, these kids are hip. Nope. All they know is how to play video games and look up things they're not supposed to look up and start fights, use social media to start fights. They don't know how to do anything with making the things. So I had to learn it all myself, just going around YouTube videos, learning how to make YouTube videos, watching YouTube videos about YouTube videos. And I came to the conclusion that I was going to do 100 videos, because then I could say, that was my goal. I could say I did YouTube. I gave it a shot, right? And no matter how many subs or whatever I had, I would just stop. And then I succeeded at that, and I started a Patreon, and it started making money. So I said, well, I got to keep going. I got to have a new goal. So it became like I got to have 100,000 subs. And then I achieved that goal. And then I was like, well, I guess I got to do something else. The Patreon, patrons want me to create a role-playing game. I guess I'll create a role-playing game. And it's just like one thing leads to another thing. And, but it was really tough to make a YouTube channel. It is, behind the scenes, like,
Yeah, I can't even imagine full-time teacher with kids and family life. Yeah, I can't even imagine doing that.
yeah.
That's
Well, my secret was I
impressive.
neglected my family
Oh,
for a few years. for a few years, and it did turn into another job.
yeah.
And I just kept going. I just kept going at it.
And,
Yeah, I mean,
now you have your $1 million backer kit and growing.
Coinciding with your retirement. Congrats, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So like, what are your plans after this? So like, you definitely seem to be a very goal oriented person. Did you expect the Deathbringer to do as well as it did? And did you already have a next goal in mind for what you wanted to work on next?
I did not know how it was going to go. I really didn't. I had an idea. They gave me projections, but I was like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Right. It was always it was always, I'm going to do the best I can. It was and so right now, we're halfway through the backer kit or whatever. Most of the backer kit support comes in the beginning and the end, right? It's
Yeah.
so we're going through that middle part now. I'll be going to Gen Con to promote it, doing a few live plays when I'm there, doing a few events, like 3 live plays at Gen Con.
Okay.
So trying to promote it there, and then we're gonna finish up. We're gonna finish up strong. I don't know when it's gonna end. Backer Kit has projections. Again, I'll see it when I believe it. But the next goal is, and this is the very next goal, is to play test the game and make sure the game is as great as possible. Then we have to fulfill it.
Yeah.
So that's the part of the cycle. I'm in the promotion part of the cycle. Then we got to get into the nitty gritty. Okay, play testing. Let's write finish a game. It's already written, but it's got to be fine tuned. Then it's got to go to layout and stuff. Then it's got to become a product. Then we got to get the product to the people who backed it as possible. Then it goes to retail. So it's going to be at cons. And then it's going to be, and then I got to promote it at cons. And I got to go to game stores because it's going to be in game stores. So that's a 2-year cycle. It's a 2-year cycle. It's a lot like recording, being a recording artist and recording an album. If you record an album, it's a 2-year cycle. Soup to nuts before you go, you write the thing and go to the recording studio and tour. It's 2 years later. It's 2 years of your life. And then there is going to be another Deathbringer book. We're going to follow the path of Kelsey and Shadowdark and expand the Deathbringer world like she did with Shadowdark World with the Western Reaches. So that is as far ahead as I can see. My whole journey, starting with YouTube, has just been, I didn't really plan it out. It's just like I set a goal that's reasonable, I achieve it, and then we set a new goal. And I'll just keep doing that. But the next 4 years of my life, because then, if we do another book, that cycle repeats. So
Right.
4 years of my life are essentially planned out.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much everybody ever who's successful at something does it that way. You set your goals, you meet your goals, you just keep going, you just keep grinding. there's no quick way to the top. You just have to keep pushing and doing it.
Yes. So I've transitioned. I said to my colleagues, they're like, "Oh, happy retirement." I said, "I'm not retiring. I'm transitioning.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a whole new career that is full time. Like I was up until a month ago, I was a teacher. This past week or past month, I have never worked so hard in my life. It's way longer than teacher hours.
Wow.
Yes, you're now a game designer.
I'm a game designer, and I'm still continuing a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So,
and you're going to submit Deathbringer for Ennies for next year, right? Because you'd be in that cycle, hopefully.
that is a publisher. That is a publisher thing.
Oh,
The
okay.
publisher The publisher submits it. I have a feeling that they would like to. So I am the host of the Ennie Awards this year. But if
Awesome.
Deathbringer is nominated, I would not be the host. That's why they asked me kind of this year. They said, we have a feeling the next year you might not be able to be the host, so we want you this year.
A
So
little conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good feeling, though. That
Yeah.
must be a really good feeling. So I was going to ask you as well, what school did you get your doctorate for dungeon mastering in? Because I'm thinking of going back to school and getting my doctorate in dungeon mastering.
Dungeon mastering.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any online. I was hoping you could help me out with that because I went to DeVry and they definitely don't have anything. So,
Well, I will say this, I think a PhD in dungeon mastery is about worth as much as most PhDs.
you could use it to teach and nothing else.
Teach other kids that won't be able to do anything other than teach.
Yeah, it's it's the way I earned it is just running games for 40 years.
Oh, well, I've got one then. Excellent.
Now you're only master tier. You got a couple more years.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm getting close to the 40
Once
years.
you
Not
get your
quite there.
backer kit or your Kickstarter done, then it's the full PhD.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
The other question I had for your professor is, I honestly, like, I've watched a lot of your videos, but I haven't found the one that talked about where you created Deathbringer from. And I'm assuming you're probably young watching heavy metal or something like that, because that's what it feels like to me. But I was hoping you could clarify for me, because that's usually what I use this podcast for, is getting people on so I can ask them the questions I can't find answers to.
In Dungeon, I launched the channel. This is going back to how I launched the channel. So when you launch a YouTube channel, if anyone's interested in this, you don't want to launch one video. You want to create about 10 videos and launch them all at the same time. Because if people like your content, you need to give them a place to go to, right? And you want them to move to another video immediately. So I launched 10 at a time. My first video was how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Hit about 15 minutes. And my second video was how to create a Dungeons and Dragons character in about 15 minutes. And I said, one thing you should do is check with your DM to ask them about what kind of world that they're running. Because if your dungeon master wants to run a game of political intrigue centered around courtiers in 15th century Venice, you don't want to show up with an anti-paladin named Deathbringer. And and someone in the comments said, Deathbringer is my spirit animal. And that's when and the Deathbringer character is based on my buddy Tom. He had a character with a similar name. We'd wanted to play the Dragonlance series of modules back in the 80s that followed the book, and it was pretty railroady. And you're supposed to play one of the heroes of the lands, So my game master was like, I want you to play the heroes of the lands. And I was like, okay, I'm game. I'll be Tanis, whatever. And I was like, Tom, why don't you be Karaman? And he's like, no, I'm going to bring my own character. And it was like Deathbringer. And Deathbringer, instead of going along with the plot, he murdered Riverwind so he could take Soul Moon.
How old were you at this time?
We're about 14, 15. And this is not me. It's my demented friend.
The people you're playing with. Yeah. We've all had those friends.
Yeah. And that's like, he wasn't going to follow the plot. He was going to do what he wanted to do. And that we all hope our players are like Frodo Baggins, like they have a conscience. But what they really are is Deathbringer. That's what they really are. They're just murder hobos.
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to say, in the common RPG parlance, it's definitely murder hobos, but Deathbringer has a better ring to it.
It does, yeah. So we are almost at an hour. Oh, go ahead.
One last quick question.
Sure.
Who does the voice for Deathbringer? Is that just you modulating it?
That's Deathbringer. Deathbringer does his own voice.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Perfect.
So
that's a good answer. I like that answer.
I saw, some people were they were displeased. I caught online. There was some online scuttlebutt. Some people were displeased on Reddit about the direction of the Deathbringer backer kit and some of the things Deathbringer has said. And all I could say is I completely disavow those comments. I think they're just awful. But I can't stop Deathbringer.
No one can.
He's got a mind of his own.
Yeah.
And I don't endorse all his comments.
Yeah, he's a lot like Craig, as I understand it.
Yeah, Craig says things all the time that we definitely do not endorse.
Don't agree with. Yeah.
Well, also Reddit's just a place where no one's going to like anything.
That's also true.
Yeah.
So we're almost at an hour here. At the end of the podcast, we always like for our guests to give a grumpy story, preferably about dungeon mastering. Now, you did just tell the story about Deathbringer, and honestly, that kind of fits the bill because as a player or DM, I would have been grumpy about him murdering Riverwind to steal Gold Moon. But if you have another story, please tell it.
Well, I once had a scenario. It was a city-based adventure, and there was this drug in the city, this really dangerous drug that turned people into kind of like zombies. It's kind of like fentanyl, and I thought my players would want to go out and find the source of this this terrible plague. But they were like, nah, we're good with it. And I'm like, well, don't you care about the people who are dying? And they're like, no, they did it to themselves. That's their own choices. And
Jesus.
I had failed. I had miscalculated. I didn't realize that I was running for the, members of the Libertarian Party. And they were like, hey, man, whatever you want to do, that's your body. And so they didn't take the hook. So I said, you know what? I give up. I don't know what to do. I don't know. We'll come back next week. I'll rethink this. And that was, my wife is sitting here and she's cracking up because she's one of those people. And
that was a plot hook that didn't quite connect.
No, and that's why in Deathbringer you get experience points for just taking the plot hook.
Also an excellent rule.
Yep. Don't look up the rules, and also
I've seen your advice in some of your videos where you just start them at the adventure and be like, all right, who's going in first?
Oh, definitely. That's my number one tip for kids. Do not start them in the dungeon because
don't give a world overview and
you start them outside the dungeon. I had one kid, I described it outside the withered tree, and the kid's like, I attacked the tree, and then another one, the wizard's like, I'm gonna burn the tree. Like I'm going to magic missile the tree. And then the druid is trying to heal the tree.
Oh my god.
And they hadn't even got into the thing. These are like 14-year-old kids. And it's just like, no, you put them in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't give them options, they will go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that advice applies to even adults because I've been in that situation with 50-year-olds going, okay, you're standing outside the dungeon, it's dry, it's humid, there's a withered tree over to the left. And they're like, what's up with that tree? Nothing. It's just a withered tree. The dungeon's right in front
description.
of you. Yeah, we got to go after that
something's
tree,
odd about
man.
this tree. We got to fuck with this tree.
Yeah. I attacked the gazebo.
Oh my God.
Yep,
Well, Professor,
that's what they do.
It's been a pleasure having you on. Congratulations on this very successful Kickstarter. I hope everything goes great. I hope you launch a Deathbringer cartoon sooner than later. I'd love to see it. Anything else you like? Anything else you like to plug other than your YouTube channel and the backer kit?
Yes, I'm going to be at Gen Con coming up this upcoming week, and we're going to have 3 events. We got a Deathbringer live play Friday at 10 a.m., and I'm going to be inviting people to play Deathbringer live. We're going to do a character funnel with a couple hundred people. Then immediately after that, I'm going to be playing Death Saves with Mike Merles, former Lead 5e designer, and also Limithron, designer of Pirate Borg, and Dadi of Mystic Arts, and some guy called Joe Manganello.
Yeah.
And
never heard of him.
Yeah, Death Saves is his game, so I'm going to be playing that in front of a live audience with them.
Nice.
And then on Saturday, I'm going to be playing in a live play called Sentinels of the Shield List. That's also a Gen Con with a separate, you got to look up Sentinels of the Shield List because it's at a separate theater. It's a beautiful theater called the Athenaeum, and this is for charity. And I'll be playing with Spencer Waddell, Tank Tolman, Alicia Marie Body, Baron DeRop. The game master is going to be Luke Gygax, and I'm going to be playing my angry dwarf character in costume. So that's 3 different times you can play with me either as a game master or watch me play as a player at Gen Con, and one's for charity. So I hope people join us if they can.
I'm glad you mentioned your angry dwarf character. I
love that guy.
like when he appears on your YouTube channel. Is that a yarn beard? Yeah. And where did you get that?
It is. It is. You can't get him anymore. I tried to get an extra one. I couldn't get him. Oh, and I'm hosting the Annie Awards on Friday night. We just broadcast.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah.
The Annie, on the YouTube channel as well. It's kind of a crazy Gen Con. That is a lot of things.
Yeah, you got a stacked schedule, man.
It is packed. It is packed.
Well, we are familiar with everybody believe you've mentioned, and I think we have not played with Luke yet, but we played with Mike Merles last year, or I guess earlier this year at GaryCon. He ran Caverns of Thracia, and Chris and I got a chance to play that with him. It was
awesome,
fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience.
But he hilariously, we just talked about you start everybody inside the dungeon. He started us outside the dungeon, and we did dick around outside that dungeon for about 45 minutes before we fucking went in. I was like,
yep.
But yep,
we start him in the dungeon.
You start him in the dungeon. Yep, start him in the dungeon. But I have one last question for you. We talked about the soundtrack that you guys are going to be working on for Deathbringer. If you had to pick a metal band from the 80s or modern, up to you, what would be the album or album cover that would say would be most inspiring for your work on Deathbringer?
Well, definitely the soundtrack to Heavy Metal with Tarna. Yeah, with Tarna on it. That was so much of that cartoon made it into Deathbringer. The goo is a stone in Deathbringer. So
is there a Lochnar? I hope there's a Lochnar.
There isn't. I didn't even think of that, but there should be.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I still listen to that soundtrack every month.
Nice. Awesome.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I think we're good.
Yeah.
Say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.